For the longest time, the Land Cruiser has been a one-of-a-kind off-roader, unlike anything in the Toyota portfolio. For decades, it has been the pinnacle of reliability, capabilities, filled with luxurious items, and it will basically withstand everything short of a direct hit from a nuclear bomb. There's also a lot of fuss about whether this is a real Land Cruiser because it kind of falls in line with the lighter duty 70 series, also known as the Prado Land Cruiser, which eventually got a standalone version of the Prado, and the 80 series top of the line Japanese Range Rover version of the Land Cruiser. What we're getting here is the middle of the range Land Cruiser, because the 300 series that came out back in 2022 is only available in East European countries, because Toyota has decided that the target market for the 300 series are oligarchs, drug traffickers, and arms dealers, and Americans are just too poor for that, which leads us to this. So let's figure out whether this is a real Land Cruiser. Let's dive right in. Thanks to Toyota, we were able to join them on a segment of their journey across the country as part of their 60th birthday. I got to spend a lot of time in the new Land Cruiser, and honestly, what better car to road trip in across Canada than this? The journey spans over 8,000 kilometers from the Maritimes all the way to the West Coast, and being driver and passenger of the Land Cruiser for thousands of kilometers has really helped me form a true opinion of this car. The new Land Cruiser, though, is different. The platform is no longer unique in the US market. It instead shares this new platform with the Toyota 4Runner, the Toyota Tacoma, the Toyota Tundra, and the Toyota Sequoia, and the Lexus GX. But that's perfectly fine because they did a really good job with this chassis. This makes 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque from a 2.4-liter four-cylinder hybrid iForce Max engine, which comes in every single model of the Land Cruiser. You can either get the base 1958 version of the Land Cruiser, which is fully base model, cloth seats and everything, and that gets the circle headlights, and then you can get the higher trim Land Cruiser, which gets the rectangular lights, and then there's this version, which is the first edition, which gets all the higher trim features, and it gets the circle headlights again. Me personally, I do like the circle headlights a lot more in this car, and from the looks of it, I feel like it is interchangeable because it doesn't look too far off in terms of the bumper placement and everything. There's only 5,000 units of the first edition coming to North America though, so if you can snag one of those, you should. This is a body-on-frame vehicle, and it rides kind of like a truck. It feels like a body-on-frame vehicle, but it gets the comfort of like a car. Like, you almost don't really notice sometimes that it is a truck platform. The front has control arms with twin tube shocks, and in the rear you get a multi-link setup. The steering feels rather light actually. It handles quite well. It doesn't feel as big as the weight suggests. It's also very easy to navigate not only on open roads, but in tight, narrow city spaces. It feels a lot less wiggly than something like the Wrangler or the Bronco. I feel like it does a pretty good job of balancing the feel and how easy it is to drive. Unsurprisingly, because it is a tall, boxy SUV with all-terrain tires, it isn't the quietest inside. Right now we're driving about 55 miles per hour, which is fine. I feel like you notice it a lot more when you're at like 80 miles per hour. But again, you do have this like 90-degree windshield and these rectangular mirrors, so you can't really do much about it. But the interior itself is pretty well insulated. It feels like a luxury car pretty much. You get some road noise from these big tires, but it's nothing like the Bronco, which just sounds like it's screaming down the road all the time. It makes it more pleasant to drive just on a regular basis. I do really like the boxy design of this car, so I wouldn't mind a little bit of road noise for it. It does look great, especially in this two-tone color with the white roof and that roof rack thing they have on top. This thing just looks awesome. The back looks fine, except this little diaper thing they have for the tow hitch receiver. I'm not a big fan of that, but other than that, everything looks great. I think the nostalgic design really works with the Land Cruiser, and it's definitely a lot nicer than the FJ Cruiser. The 8-speed automatic is pretty quick to respond. It's smooth, it's fast to shift. Paddles are okay, they're not the greatest paddles, but it does a good job. It just goes through gears smoothly, no complaints about it. It's way better than the 6-speed they had before. You also get from 0 to 60 in a rated 7.7 seconds, so let's actually throw it into sport mode real quick and do a launch. brake boost. It's okay. It's not the fastest in the world, but it's okay. You can get up to speed fairly well. But if you do want more power, you should get the Lexus GX, which is a twin turbo V6, which makes a lot more power, and it's actually not that much more in price. And that thing also tows 9,000 pounds, unlike this, which only tows 6,000 pounds. So it's enough for a small boat, but nothing too crazy. But for a couple of $1,000s more, you can just get the GX if you need that extra towing capabilities. Handling is fine in this car. The tires would probably be the biggest limitation. It's a very soft ride and it feels very refined. Like, you have a little bit of body roll and you do get a little bit of brake dive when you're turning and braking at the same time, but that's expected in this class of vehicle. Just like a truck, when you go over the little bumps, you can feel the slight vibrations, but when there's a pothole on the road or anything, you almost don't feel it. Like, you drive over it as if it's a small crack, which I really like, especially because I live in Toronto where the roads are horrendous. I also spent a lot of time as a passenger in this vehicle on our road trip, and honestly, I just spent a lot of that time sleeping through the emptiness of Canada with nothing around me, which says a lot because I don't fall asleep in cars that easily. This thing is just very comfy, very spacious. The only thing that I noticed in the passenger seat is that you can't view this digital dashboard. It feels like it has a privacy screen protector or something. Same with the Lexus GX, where when you're sitting there, you can't see anything here, it's just black. But from the driver's perspective, it feels perfectly normal. Okay, corner. Not too bad. A little bit of body roll, but for a vehicle this size, it's actually pretty good. I almost forget that this is a hybrid car sometimes because it's very unintrusive. The handoff from electric motor to the engine is very seamless. You probably won't even feel it unless you're really paying attention. And all that means is that this thing does really good mileage. You get 22 miles per gallon in the city and 25 miles per gallon on the highway. And for our cross-country drive, we actually average about 24 miles per gallon, which is excellent for a tank of an SUV. This is something that you can comfortably and efficiently take your kids to school in and drive around in the city fine. And when it's a weekend, it's also a great road trip vehicle. You get Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, which has really good lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. You also do get your blind spot monitor and you get your digital mirror, and you have just so much tech to help you drive. Let's turn on cruise control, pretty much hands off almost, and it just stays pretty much centered. You also get your safety exit assist and your rear cross traffic alert. You also get a 360 camera in here. So this thing has everything you need to drive anywhere. And then once you get outside of town and start to explore some remote campsites and some trails, you really get the full-on experience with the Land Cruiser. And this is exactly what it's made for. Some of these shots you're seeing right now are from the Badlands in Alberta, Canada. And this truck just looks badass in this environment, especially with the two-tone paint job. It has 8.3 inches of ground clearance, and it's also about half an inch lower than the GX 550. So it's not as capable, I guess, and it doesn't have the all-terrain 33-inch tires, although these are light terrain tires. They still do pretty good, but it just doesn't have the same capabilities as the GX. It still does very well around here, and we're just on a little bit of a bumpy trail here. You do get a skid plate underneath, although it doesn't cover the oil pan, so you gotta be a little bit careful with that. And for the Land Cruiser, you do get your full-time four-wheel drive. You have it for high or for low. You also have a stability bar disconnect, your center lock, and your rear locking differential, which would really help you out if you're on some sticky trails. Seeing the suspension flex in real life is awesome. You realize that this truck is much more capable than the trail we're taking it on. The MTS mode, your multi-terrain select, has quite a few features, and it really helps you out a lot, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Right now, we're gonna put it on auto mode because it's kind of sandy and dirt at the same time. The 360 camera here also helps a lot. You get the side view and the front view, and you also get this transparent view so you can see what you're driving over, which is pretty cool. Light steering makes it very easy to point this truck where you want it to go. It doesn't feel like it weighs 5,500 pounds around here, and it's just really comfy. Like any other car right now, you would be like jiggling all the time. In this, it merely feels like a normal road, and these bumps are not small at all. We're gonna go up this little trail here, and because it's not actually that big of a vehicle, it's really easy just to navigate it on tighter spaces like this on like a big truck. On a little bit of a bank here, you get your pitch and roll here on the screen. Feels good. And we're going up some sand here, so let's actually throw it into sand mode. We're not gonna go in 4 low because we don't really need it. This isn't really that tough of a trail for a vehicle like this. And we also don't wanna smash the front bumper on the sand dune or anything. So nothing crazy here. Going up this hill, a little bit of bump. Let's come to a full stop. We are on a little bit of an angle right now. You get 31 degrees of approach angle, which is the same as a Defender. It's actually basically like a Defender, just subtract all the breakdowns and the fact that the electronics work consistently. Pretty much no traction loss. The sand is getting a little bit softer here. Quite a steep incline, you can't really see. Full stop again. Okay, just a little bit of wheel spin. Does a good job of putting power down. The brake over angle on this car is 25 degrees and the departure angle is 22 degrees, which isn't great. The Defender is 38, but for most people, you're not taking this on anything that extreme anyways. This is more than what the normal person would use. I can't even see over the hood right now. So front camera helps a lot. Just climbing up this hill. Yeah, this thing does great. It doesn't even struggle one bit. This thing is so good. You feel very confident just taking this anywhere. Just point it and it goes. I love the turbo spool that comes out of this car too. It just sounds crazy. You just hear that flutter when you're on the throttle. It's also really funny because sometimes it goes hybrid mode on you on the trail, which is perfectly fine, but then you're just off-roading in silence, which is kind of cool in itself, and you're saving the planet at the same time, I guess. Okay, big puddle. Might as well just drive right through it. Oh my god, that is some real cowboy shit. This thing just eats that like nothing. The GX over trail though is a little bit more capable. You do get a little bit more clearance and the bigger, more aggressive all-terrain tires. These are light terrain tires or Michelin LTX tires. They're fine here, but they're better on the road compared to the GX tires. But if you want the better off-roader, you should definitely consider the Over Trail Plus GX because that is a little bit more capable, but this is still very pleasantly enjoyable. Not only off-road, but also on-road, which is very challenging for a lot of cars to be able to be good at both. And this is one of them. No matter what terrain you're on though, it feels very nice and cozy in here. It's also very upscale. I like all the material choices that you use. It's really soft. Even this dashboard, it feels like a Lexus car. Nice soft armrest. I like the mix of tech and the physical buttons that they have. Full on hard button climate control. I love that. Heated and ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel. You also have all your off-road buttons here. You have your drive mode selector, your MTS selector, your crawl control. You also have your stability bar disconnect, your center lock, and your rear lock. You also have this little knob here that you can put it in 4-low, traction off. And I like the shifter, pretty traditional. 3 USB-C ports here. You get your wireless charger, 2 cup holders here. Nice and fairly well-sized center console. There's an option for a cool box console. Then moving up here, you do get your 12.3-inch digital display. You don't get this if you get the base model, but with this version, you do get it, and it is pretty nice and fast. It runs on the Toyota UI, every other car now. And you also get a 12.3-inch digital dashboard here, which is nice. You can view all your off-road status and pretty much any information that you can think about on here. And you can change the gauge style to whatever you want it to be. And you have your tough mode and your sport mode and your casual mode. You also have a heads-up display up here, and you get a digital mirror. So you have a lot of tech going on in here. You have your JBL speakers, power folding mirrors, and you do get a moonroof. It's not a panoramic sunroof, which would be nice, but this is okay too. This is also your Toyota key. I like how it doesn't show Toyota like other cars. It just shows Land Cruiser here. Overall, it's pretty nice in here, and let's check out the back seats. Coming to the back here, there's no running board here. You get a rocker bar, so the step-in height is kind of high in this version. You get quite a bit of space back here. Headroom is really good. You could be like 6'4" and pretty comfy back here. You can also sit 3 people in the back here, and it's enough space for them. You also get your climate control back here, 2 more USB-C ports here, and a 12-volt outlet. There is no heated seats in this version or ventilated seats, and the materials in the back here, they didn't cheap out. It's carried from the front to the rear, so it is nice. You get your vents back here, and these seats also recline a bit, so that's nice. Let's check out the trunk. You can open this glass part back here, which is pretty nice, and you got the camera back here pointing backwards, and then you can also open the tailgate like this. It's powered. There is no kick to release sensor. You notice right off the bat that it is a little bit high as a load-in height because this is where the nickel metal hydride hybrid battery sits. And this is supposed to be a third row or something because you do get cup holders back here, USB-C ports on each side, and vents. Although in North America, I'm pretty sure you can only get this in a 2-row configuration. You do also get 38 cubic feet of space back here, which is quite impressive, more than a Jeep Wrangler. It's very practical. There you have it. You get a lot of space in this car, lots of tech, and a great blend of, well, everything, which is exactly what the Land Cruiser is about. You kind of forget that the Land Cruiser is the same car that people can drive comfortably in to Costco, yet the same name plaque is used on mining trucks, which I got to drive at N's Toyota in Saskatchewan during the road trip. It was a really cool experience, and it just shows you how redundant this truck has always been. The only complaint I really have about this car is that it's a little bit pricey, especially when you put it up against the GX. This thing starts at about $56,000 US, but for this version, which you would probably want to get unless you want a base model, is $69,000 US dollars or $93,000 in Canada, which makes the GX over Trail Plus, which is a fully loaded off-road version of the GX, look like a bargain at only $77,000. It's not that much more, so it makes me question why you would choose this over the GX. And then you also got the new 4Runner coming out, which shares the same platform as this car and the same engine, and it's probably a lot cheaper. So Toyota is really just competing with itself at this point, which isn't so much of a bad thing, well, because the competition just isn't as good. It's not something people trust to take them across the country or the Sahara Desert or any sand dunes without absolutely no issues. But to me, it's not really clear it'll be a better deal than the upcoming 4Runner. But if you're looking for a family off-road SUV that is genuinely nice inside and out and has a high likelihood of lasting for a while, this would be at the top of my list alongside the GX. It's just a great place to spend time driving endless hours, whether it's on-road or off-road. Being as versatile as it is, this is undoubtedly a real Land Cruiser, and that's a big deal. That's all, guys. Thanks for watching.